Well, let's talk. Let's get back to your artwork. In 1954, you illustrated a Collie book for Ted Cattell.
Here it is.
Orco Collies. Now, how did he find and choose you? And one of the committee members said, "My gosh, you were only a member of the CC of A for 5 years. How did he find you?"
Probably through Nancy. He was a good friend. Yeah, so he owned Black Douglas of Allstead, and she was Nancy Haston then. And she bred the Black Douglas. Remember, I said was one of his last litters, and so she knew him, and Nancy knew she had moved up here. She lived in Oregon City, and so she knew that I did.
And that you did
yes, because
illustrations.
we were still in Eugene, the Collie Club, Pacific Northwest Collie Club, had their specialty in Portland, and I donated a pastel portrait of the winner's dog. I had done one before for Best of Breed, and one that William Miller won that, and I don't know who has it, Janet maybe, or did have, maybe John has it, but I did. There was a head study of 3 collies, a sable, a tri, and a blue in pastel, but the one I did of Nancy's, I did Ramsey, and then later on I did one of Lorraine, that Ramsey's mother. And so anyway, it was through Ted and Nancy that Ted knew Nancy, and then he knew about he'd seen some of my work.
And this is the
This
book.
is the original one. Now this is All Pets publication, and they were in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. It was called All Pets Books.
Well, this is, let me put this next to the camera, because
Well,
I think that would be very familiar to everybody.
Show me the front cover.
Well, that's not. I'm going to show you the better front cover.
Oh,
Okay.
the better front
Yes,
cover,
because
okay.
there were three editions. This one was the first one, and they used a staff artist that did this,
Oh, you didn't
this.
do that.
No. And all the inside drawings are all mine, with the exception of the standard. They used a Labrador Retriever to show the parts
that's
of a
right
dog.
here.
Anyway, so
is
then
the pet collie.
anyway,
wonderful.
so then people weren't happy with this business, so the next edition was this. And
Oh, look at
this.
that.
Oh, beautiful.
Now hold that for just a minute.
Well, I have the originals of these at home.
That's beautiful.
Anyway, and then the staff artist did some stuff here. And in here, I think it's in the first book too, here is a drawing of Black Douglas.
Beautiful.
And I have the
And his call name was Bobby.
Bobby.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And his, I think he's in this one. I think he got in this one too.
Are we getting these pictures close enough to the camera, do you think? Good.
I'm not sure. No, in the original one there wasn't, so I did one for this. And then later they came out with another edition, and they had put a color wash on them. And they mixed, they put photographs in it,
Oh, okay. Sure.
and some of these, they had some, I think some of the dogs in here are Lassie. Yeah, here's Red Weatherwax with Lassie. So far as I know, this was the last. There were 3 editions that I know of. Oh yeah, here we go. First edition was 54, second edition was 56, third edition was 57, and I don't think there was another one. then the fact that I did these drawings for Ted, at Ted's recommendation, or what partly, was how I got it was through him and Billy that I got the Illustrated Standard.
Yes, yeah, that was my next question. And this is my copy.
Yeah.
I'm probably purchased about 65, and this was published in 61.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now tell us why you mentioned that it could not be called an illustrated Collie standard. And
People had been dog breeders had been asking, on the premise that a picture equals 1,000 words, dog people had been requesting illustrated standards. The AKC was resisting. There had been illustrated standards done privately, financed not by the AKC, not under AKC, or by breed clubs necessarily. Eno Meyer, he did one on the Boxer, and then Paul Brown that did a lot of horse drawings. One of the dog clubs, dog who had, I think, put out several books illustrated by him. I know the Beagle, and I have quite a few of those. But they were privately published, and they were not under the auspices of a club or with the AKC. So anyway, when they went to the AKC for approval, they wouldn't let us call it the Illustrated Standard. We had to call it Illustrations of the Collie, His Character and Conformation. Well, shortly thereafter, there was so much demand for illustrated that there were a lot of clubs started doing them. Also, the first one, the Great Dane Club, had an illustrated standard, but the drawings in it were more, not really cartoon, but sort of more cartoon style, rather than trying to be more representational, more like they were, and that I have the copies of that.
well, and here you have so much of the actual bone structure, and I'm sure most of the people have seen this, but I mean the drawings are beautifully detailed, and are.
Well, I borrowed.
So encourage anybody to. Is this book still available?
I think so, but I don't. It isn't. They printed several later editions, and the last one I saw, I don't know. It was print. Anyway, it's not printed like this. When we started it with it, you notice that the text of each drawing is on the back. The idea, and this is a binder, the idea was to add to it and insert them so that, and you would still be able, and over the years, there was quite a bit of an effort back and forth to add to it, which never came to pass. So when they reprinted them, they printed them with the text opposite each picture.
Well, one of the fun things I thought to ask you is the CCFA members on the committee for this book was Mrs. Harold Tharp, and she was Emily Tharp, Mrs. Florence Cummings with Arrow Hill Collies, Mrs. Elizabeth Browning with Tocallan, Stephen Field with Parader, and Edwin Pickard with Sterling. And I wondered if you had any interesting stories about working with these.
I have all the correspondence.
Well-known collie folk.
Let me tell you, it was an education, but I have all the correspondence. When you ask how we worked this out, of course, at first I sent, actually the first pictures, before I actually got hired to do the job, I did a drawing of a collie male, and Billy was going back to the National, and I forgot what year that was, and so he said the committee was going to meet. He took it back for me, and he took the original drawing because there was no copy machines. And so he took, that was a mistake. Oh, we did this, and this, and it's pencil. So I said, forget that. So it
smeared a little. Huh?
Oh, yes. Oh. And when they went to try to print it, they had a sweet time because I had to do a lot of erasing. It's pencil drawing. And it's like a half tone. It's a half tone. Anyway, so I took them to a professional photographer and had them take photographs of some of the stuff. That's how we did it. And that way they could, or I would send sketches, not the finished product. And so anyway, the one Billy took back, it wasn't the one that I ended. I mean, it was sort of a prototype, but he took it back, and that's when they made the decision to have me do it.